Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. We got some more questions for you guys today, so let's get started. Question 1. What were Pharaoh's instructions to the midwives regarding the children born to Hebrew women? To kill both male and female children? To kill the female children only? To kill male children and spare the females? Or to spare both male and female children? To kill male children and spare the females. Exodus 1:16. And he said, When you do the duties of a midwife for the Hebrew women, and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him, but if it is a daughter, then she shall live. 2. What had Pharaoh's daughters gone to do in the river when she discovered Moses in the ark? To bathe, pray, for a picnic, or to pass the time? To bathe. Exodus 2:5. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside, and when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. 3. What command did God give to Moses when he approached the burning bush? Remove his hat, put away his rod and staff, wash his hair, remove his sandals. Remove his sandals. Exodus 3:5. Then he said, Do not draw near this place. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. 4. How did God introduce himself to Moses for the first time? I am that I am, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or the God of Israel? God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Exodus 3:6. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. 5. What did the Israelite women take from the Egyptian before leaving? Articles of bronze only, articles of silver only, articles of silver and gold, articles of bronze and earth. Articles of silver and gold. Exodus 3:22. But every woman shall ask of her neighbor, namely of her who dwells near her house, articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing. 6. What did God say he made Moses to be in relation to Pharaoh? As God to Pharaoh, as a king to Pharaoh, prophet to Pharaoh, or a brother to Pharaoh? A god to Pharaoh. Exodus 7:1. So the Lord said to Moses, See, I have made you as a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron to your brother shall be your prophet. 7. How many days a week did manna fall from heaven? 5, 6, 7, or 3? 6 days. Exodus 16:26. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will be none. 8. What name did Moses give to the altar he built after defeating the Amalekites? The Lord is my banner, the Lord is my shepherd, the Lord is my provider, the Lord is my king. The Lord is my banner. Exodus 17:15. And Moses built an altar and called its name, The Lord is my banner. 9. How long would a Hebrew servant work before gaining freedom? 7 years, 8 years, 6 years, or 50 years? 6 years. Exodus 21:2. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve you 6 years, and in the seventh he shall go out free and pay nothing. 10. What happened to a servant who refused to gain freedom from his master? His hair would be cut by his master, his hand would be marked by his master, his nose would be pierced by his master, his ear would be pierced by his master. His ears would be pierced. Exodus 21:6. Then his master shall bring him to the judges, he shall also bring him to the door, or to the doorpost, and his master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. 11. What wood was used to make a brazen altar? Cypress, acacia, gopher, or oak? Acacia. Exodus 27:1. You shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. 12. What was the name of Naomi's husband? Elimelech, Chilion, Mahlon, or Boaz? Elimelech. Ruth 1:2. The name of the man was Elimelech, the name of his wife was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to the country of Moab and remained there. 13. Who said, For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Naomi, Eve, Ruth, or Rebecca? Ruth 1:16. But Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave you, or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. 14. What name was given to Ruth's son? Edom, Boaz, Jesse, or Obed? Obed. Ruth 4:17. Also the neighbor woman gave him a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. 15. How did Eli die? He died of old age, killed by a sword in war, fell off his seat and broke his neck, or died from an illness. Fell off his seat and broke his neck. 1 Samuel 4:18. Then it happened, when he made mention of the ark of God, that Eli fell off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for the man was old and heavy. 16. Where did David take the ark of the covenant after Uzzah died trying to prevent it from falling? Into the temple? Into the house of Obed-Edom? Into his house? Into the house of the priest? Into the house of Obed-Edom. 2 Samuel 6:10. So David would not move the ark of the Lord with him into the city of David, but David took it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. 17. Who was Abigail's husband before she married David? Nabal, Naboth, Saul, or Abner? Nabal. 1 Samuel 25:39. So when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord, who has pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and has kept his servant from evil. For the Lord has returned the wickedness of Nabal on his own head." And David sent and proposed to Abigail. 18. How tall was Goliath? 7 cubits and a span, 6 cubits and a span, 8 cubits in the span, or 9 cubits in the span? "6 cubits and a span." 1 Samuel 17:4. And a champion went out from the camp of the Philistine named Goliath from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. 19. What did Saul demand from David instead of a dowry for marrying his daughter? 100 foreskins of the Philistines, the head of the king of the Philistines, sword of Goliath the Philistine, or 10 armors of Philistine warriors? "100 foreskins of the Philistines." 1 Samuel 18:25. Then Saul said, "Thus you shall say to David, the king does not desire any dowry but 100 foreskins of the Philistines to take vengeance on the king's enemies." 20. How many people did the women sing that David slew? 5,000, 1,000, 3,000, or 10,000? 10,000. 1 Samuel 18:7. So the women sang as they danced and said, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s." 21. Where did the distressing spirit that tormented Saul come from? From the devil, Saul's enemies, God, or David? From God. 1 Samuel 18:10. And it happened on the next day that the distressing spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied inside the house. So David played music with his hand, as at other times, but there was a spear in Saul's hand. 22. How many priests did Saul order to be killed? 85 men, 25 men, 75 men, or 65 men? 85 men. 1 Samuel 22:18. And the king said to Doeg, "You turn and kill the priests." So Doeg the Edomite turned and struck the priests and killed on that day 85 men who wore a linen ephod. 23. Who killed King Agag after Saul spared him? David, Samuel, Abner, or Jonathan? Samuel. 1 Samuel 15:33. But Samuel said, "As your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women." And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. 24. What was David's role to Saul besides playing the harp? Chef, guard, butler, or armor bearer? Armor bearer. 1 Samuel 16:21. So David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. 25. Who was the commander of Saul's army? Abner, Amasai, Joab, or Abiathar? Abner. 1 Samuel 17:55. When Saul saw David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, "Abner, whose son is this youth?" 26. How many stones did David put in his bag when he went to kill Goliath? 3, 10, 5, or 1? Five smooth stones. 1 Samuel 17:40. Then he took a staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. 27. Whom did Abraham marry after Sarah's death? Hagar, Keturah, Karen, or Keziah? Keturah. Genesis 25:1. Abraham again took a wife, and her name was Keturah. 28. How long did Moses' mother keep him hidden after he was born? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months? Three months. Exodus 2:2. So the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. 29. How many years did Solomon reign over Israel? 40, 50, 30, or 42? "40 years." 1 Kings 11:42. And the period that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. 30. Who was the father of Joshua? Nun. Judges 2:8. Now Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died when he was 110 years old. 31. Who was Ruth's first husband? Mahlon, Boaz, Obed, or Chilion? Mahlon. Ruth 4:10. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. 32. How did David react when he heard the Saul's death? He rejoiced, worshipped God, held his peace, or mourned? Mourned. 2 Samuel 1:11-12. Therefore David took hold of his own clothes and tore them, and so did all the men who were with him. And they mourned and wept and fasted until evening for Saul and for Jonathan his son. 33. What disease was Naaman suffering from? Fever, paralysis, leprosy, or blindness? Leprosy. 2 Kings 5:1. Now Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great and honorable man in the eyes of his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but a leper. 34. Which king of Israel ate the holy bread belonging to priests? David, Solomon, Saul, or Joash? David. 1 Samuel 21:6. So the priests gave him, David, holy bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread. 35. Which prophet challenged the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel? Elisha, Ezekiel, Elijah, or Ezra? Elijah. 1 Kings 18:40. And Elijah said to them, "Seize the prophets of Baal, do not let one of them escape." So they seized them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and executed them there. 36. Elisha didn't know that Elijah would be taken up to heaven. True or false? False. 2 Kings 2:3. Now the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that the Lord will take away your master from over you today?" And he said, "Yes, I know, keep silent." 37. Who ordered Jezebel to be thrown down, resulting in her death? Josiah, Jehu, Joash, or Nadab? Jehu. 2 Kings 9:31 through 33. And then as Jehu entered at the gate, she said, Is it peace, Zimri, murderer of your master? And he looked up at the window and said, Who is on my side? Who? So 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. Then he said, Throw her down. So they threw her down. 38. What was Elijah's signature look? A hairy man wearing leather belt? Short man wearing long robe? Old man with bald head, or an old man with long beards? Hairy man wearing a leather belt. 2 Kings 1:8. So they answered him, a hairy man wearing a leather belt around his waist. And he said, It is Elijah the Tishbite. 39. Elijah was known as Elijah the Canaanite, Elijah the Ephraimite, Elijah the Tishbite, or Elijah the Hebrew. Elijah the Tishbite. 1 Kings 17:1. And Elijah the Tishbite of the inhabitants of Gilead said to Ahab, As the Lord God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years except at my word. 40. How many times did the Israelites march around the city of Jericho? 13, 10, 7, or 6? "13 times." Joshua 6:14 through 15. And the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did 6 days. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On that day only they marched around the city 7 times. 41. How was Naboth killed? He was hanged, he was stoned to death, killed by the sword, or he was poisoned. He was stoned to death. 1 Kings 21:14. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth has been stoned and is dead. 42. It's written that the day of death is better than the day of birth. True or false? True. Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. 43. Complete this verse. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything, some things, nothing, or most things. Everything. Ecclesiastes 10:19. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. 44. How does the book of Ecclesiastes refer to its author? Teacher, king, preacher, or wise man? Preacher, Ecclesiastes 1:1, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. 45. How many chapters are there in the book of Psalms? 100, 150, 180, or 170? 150. The book of Psalms has 150 chapters. 46. Which prophet was told these words by God? No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Jeremiah, Amos, Ezekiel, or Isaiah? Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me, says the Lord. 47. Which eyes were opened when Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit? Eyes of their bodies, eyes of their spirits, eyes of their souls, or it is not clearly stated. It's not clearly stated. Genesis 3:7. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. 48. What did Balaam do when his donkey spoke? Kept quiet, shocked, responded with a threat, or ran away? He responded with a threat. Numbers 22:29. And Balaam said to the donkey, because you've abused me, I wish there were a sword in my hand, for now I would kill you. 49. What material did Nebuchadnezzar use to build the idol he forced people to worship? Bronze, gold, iron, or wood? Gold. Daniel 3:1. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and its width 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. 50. How many horns did the ram in Daniel's second vision have? 2, 3, 1, or 5? 2. Daniel 8:3. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and there standing beside the river was a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher one came up last. 51. In the interpretation of Daniel's first vision of the 4 beasts, what did the beasts symbolize? 4 generals, 4 angels, 4 cherubim, or 4 kings? 4 kings. Daniel 7:17. Those great beasts, which are 4 kings which arise out of the earth. 52. Which prophet prophesied about the second coming of Elijah? Jeremiah, Malachi, Amos, or Obadiah? Malachi 4:5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. 53. What does God promise those who tithe? Long life, peace, blessings for abundance, or joy? Blessings for abundance. Malachi 3:10. Bring all the tithes into the storehouses, that there may be food in my house, and try me now on this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you such blessing that there will not be room enough to receive it. 54. Which among the following is not listed among the 7 dimensions of the Spirit in Isaiah 11? Spirit of wisdom, spirit of knowledge, spirit of love, or spirit of counsel? Spirit of love. Isaiah 11:2. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. 55. What happened to Jezebel's body when she died? Dogs ate it, buried whole, burned, or left in the wilderness? Dogs ate it. 2 Kings 9:36. Therefore they came back and told him, and he said, This is the word of the Lord, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, On the plot of the ground at Jezreel dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel. 56. How many bulls did King Solomon offer as burnt offerings during the dedication of the temple? 22,000, 20,000, 2,000, or 1,000? $22,000 bulls. 2 Chronicles 7:5. King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 bulls and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people dedicated the house of God. 57. How many years did Solomon take to build his house? 10, 13, 7, or 5? (13) 1 Kings 7:1. But Solomon took 13 years to build his own house, so he finished all his house. 58. Job's daughters were the most beautiful women during their time. True or false? True. Job 42:15. In all the land were found no woman so beautiful as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. 59. Complete this verse. That which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing blank under the sun. Old, funny, easy, or new? New. Ecclesiastes 1:9. That which has been is what will be, that which is done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. 60. Who was the youngest son of Jacob? Gad, Dan, Benjamin, or Joseph? Benjamin. Genesis 44:12. So he searched, he began with the oldest and left off with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. 61. What is the name of the kings who married Esther? King Cyrus, King Agrippa, King Artaxerxes, or King Ahasuerus? King Ahasuerus. Esther 2:16. So Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. 62. About whom did God testify and say these words? There is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil. David, Abraham, Job, or Noah? Job. Job 1:8. Then the Lord said to Satan, Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and shuns evil? 63. What did King Solomon ask for when God appeared to him in a dream? Understanding heart, wealth, favor and influence, or a long life? An understanding heart. 1 Kings 3:9. Therefore give to your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? 64. How did Solomon judge the dispute between the two women fighting over the living child? Ordered the child be taken, arrested the two women, ordered the child be divided in two, ordered the child be put to death. Ordered child to be divided in two. Kings 3:25. And the king said, divide the living child in two, and give half to one and half to the other. 65. King Solomon won all the battles he fought. False. King Solomon never fought any battle. He had peace during his reign. 1 Kings 5:2-4. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side. There is neither adversary nor evil occurrence. 66. Why was Jabez given that name by his mother? Because she did not love him? Because she was poor? Because she bore him in pain? Or because she was angry? Because she bore him in pain. 1 Chronicles 4:9. Now Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bore him in pain. 67. Why didn't God permit David to build his temple? He was old and weak, committed adultery, had shed much blood, or disobeyed God. Shed much blood. 1 Chronicles 22:8. But the word of the Lord came to me, saying, you have shed much blood and have made great wars. You shall not build a house for my name, because you have shed much blood on the earth in my sight. 68. What turned Solomon's heart from the Lord? His wives turned away his heart? His wisdom turned away his heart? His wealth turned away his heart? Or his children turned away his heart? His wives turned away his heart. 1 Kings 11:3. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. 69. On which mountain did Solomon build the house of the Lord? Mount Carmel, Mount Moriah, Mount Sinai, or Mount Zion? Mount Moriah. 2 Chronicles 3:1. Now Solomon began to build the house of the Lord at Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David. 70. How was Elijah taken up to heaven? By rushing river, by a cloud, mighty hand, or whirlwind? Whirlwind. 2 Kings 2:11. Then it happened, as they continued on and talked, that suddenly a chariot of fire appeared with horses of fire, and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. 71. Besides Elisha, who else said these words? O my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. King Joash, King Josiah, Prophet Ezekiel, or Prophet Amos? King Joash. 2 Kings 13:14. Elisha had become sick with the illness of which he would die. Then Joash the king of Israel came down to him and wept over his face and said, O my father, the chariots of Israel and their horsemen. 72. Which of the following is not a name attributed to the coming Messiah according to the prophecy of Isaiah 9? Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Mighty God, or Majesty? Majesty. Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. 73. From which book has this verse been quoted? Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. Psalms, Isaiah, Ezra, or Jeremiah? Isaiah 61. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. 74. Complete this verse. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle on blank. 1,000 hills, many hills, highest hills, or every hill? A 1,000 hills. Psalm 50:10. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle on 1,000 hills. 75. Which is the shortest chapter in the Old Testament? Psalms 117, Psalms 127, Proverbs 8, or Job 42? Psalms 117. Psalms 117 is the shortest chapter in the Old Testament with only 2 verses. 76. Which beginning does Genesis 1 reference? Beginning of time, beginning of creation, beginning of all things, or beginning of mankind? Beginning of creation. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. 77. How did God count the first 3 days of creation, considering He created the sun and moon on the 4th day? It is not clearly stated how He did it. Genesis 1:14. Then God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. 78. What was the description of the earth at the beginning of creation? Vast and hollow, without form and void, ugly and cluttered, or full of mountains and oceans? Without form and void. Genesis 1:2. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. 79. Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved, but abides forever. From which book has this verse been quoted? Proverbs, Amos, Psalms, or Job? Psalms 125:1. Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved but abides forever. 80. Which prophet did King Ahab call a troublemaker? Elijah. 1 Kings 18:17. Then it happened, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said to him, Is that you, O troubler of Israel? And that's all the questions we have for today. So remember, put your score in the comments below, then share this with your friends and family so you can compare your score against theirs. Then we'll see you in the next one.